A colorful rock garden might have caught your eye at Dublin Park. It's Madison River of Hope, a painted rock project that was started and completed over the summer. The project raised more than $9,000 in COVID-19 relief funds that were donated to organizations and communities in need. Those include Madison City Schools and Madison Public Library. Organizers say this project united people during a time of crisis.
I hope one day we come back in 10 years and we look at the river and we see people's expressions and their worries, but most of all, we see their hope and how they came together when it's all over. And it will end at one point.
And more than 2,000 of those painted rocks are on display.